Hello, ladies and gentlemen of geometry. This is Mr. Heron talking to you about 11.5, the area of similar figures. This represents the end of Unit 11. So right after this should be the 11.1 through 11.5 full review, and then you're going to take your test. So now thinking back, this is kind of old stuff. The word similar had a very distinct meaning in geometry. It means two things. Corresponding angles are congruent, and corresponding sides are in proportion. So you need to make sure you write that down. So what does that mean? So that means angles congruent is pretty straightforward. Okay, this angle matches up to this angle. These two match up. These two match up. And these two match up. Those are all equal. Corresponding angles are congruent. They all have the same angle measure. All the sides are in proportion. That means 15 over 5 is equal to 12 over 4 is equal to 21 over 7 is equal to 18 over 6. All of those are going to be 3. So that is what it means to be in proportion. You will get the same answer when you match up the sides. So now, how does that correspond to what we're talking about? So if two polygons are similar, so if I've got two shapes are similar, I'm not dealing with angles and sides anymore. What I'm dealing with is the square of the scale factor. Okay? So whatever my scale factor is, I'm going to square it, and that's going to be the new scale factor for the areas. Okay, so let me give you an example of what I mean. Okay, so if I just say this is 3 and this is 1, we're saying that these two are similar. So this is 1, this is 3. So my scale factor would be 3 over 1, or just 3. All right, that's going to be my scale factor. So the scale factor of the areas, though, is going to be a scale factor of 3 squared, which is just going to be 9. Okay, that's my big idea. Whatever my scale factor is, I square it, and that becomes the scale factor of the areas between the two shapes. So let's take a look here. These two triangles are similar. I'm going from JKL to PQR. So my scale factor becomes 15 over 12. These two sides match up. So I just take 15 over 12, which simplifies to divide both top and bottom by 3, 5 over 4. So that becomes my scale factor. So now they said that the area of JKL is 30. Find the area of PQR. But I need not the scale factor, but the scale factor squared. So the top one is JKL, back up. Sorry. The top one is PQR, the bottom one is JKL. So I've got 25 over 16 equals X over 30. So then I could do a little cross products. $30 times 25 divided by 16 is going to be 46.875. That would be the area of PQR. That would be in inches squared. So that's what I'm doing. I'm figuring out my scale factor, squaring it, then setting it equal to my areas of my triangle. Oops, I don't know why you keep drawing that. So if I look here, my scale factor, I'm going from 8 to 5. So the scale factor is going to be 5 over 8. Okay, I just put the second one on top, the first one on the bottom. So the area scale factor is going to be 5 squared over 8 squared. So that's going to be 25 over 64. Now they tell me the area of the first one is 32. That's the information they give me. So all I got to do is say, okay, 25 over 64 equals 32 over A. And this is going to be the area of the smaller one. Actually, I want to flip that around. I want this one to be, top one to be A and the bottom one to be 32. All right, because this is both the second shape and that's both from the first shape. So a little cross product, 64A equals 25 times 32. That's going to equal 800 divided by 64. So my area is going to be 12.5 centimeters squared. And that should make sense. The bigger one should have a bigger area, smaller one should have a smaller area. So here, figure out the area of the green triangle. So my scale factor, I go 8 over 6. And I can simplify it if I want to. I don't have to, but it's good to have good habits. So my area scale factor is going to be 4 squared over 3 squared, which is just going to be 16 over 9. All right. So now 16 over 9 is going to be equal to x over 13 and a half. All right, so there's my x, figuring out the area of that thing. So again, multiply diagonally. So 16 times 13.5 divided by 9. After all that, I get 24. So 24 is the area of that thing. That's all I'm doing. So set up my scale factor, square it to get my area scale factor, match up what area goes with which shape, and then solve. So they tell me that the area of ABCD is 48. So my scale factor is 9 over 6. So that becomes 3 over 2. That's simplified. So now to get my area scale factor, that's going to be 3 squared over 2 squared. So that's going to be 9 over 4. So 9 over 4 is my area scale factor. And they tell me that the little one is 48. They tell me this one, it's 48 inches squared. I got to figure out the big one. So let that be whatever letter you want and do some cross multiplication here. So 4z equals 432 divided by 4. So that's going to be 108 inches squared. I'm hoping by now, after this many examples, you're starting to get the idea. So you're starting to kind of understand what you're going to be expected to do. So here you're working backwards a little bit. You're given the areas, and you got to work back to what you've got here. Okay, so let's think about this. Before, we would take just 6 over x. That would be my scale factor. Okay, we just knew what x was. This time we don't. So the area scale factor would be 6 squared over x squared, which is just 36 over x squared. So 36 over x squared is going to be equal to 72 over 50. So now it becomes a little tougher of what we got to do, but not impossible. So on the other side, I'm going to take 50 times 36. So that's going to be 72x squared equals 1800. Divide that guy by 72. Square root. X is going to equal 5. So my answer here is this length is just going to be a length of 5. All right, last one. We have got a couple of kites here. Same idea. We'll go x over 40. Length is my scale factor. So the area scale factor is going to be x squared over 40 squared. 40 squared is going to be 1,600. And that's going to be equal to 64 over 400. So that's 400x squared equals 64 times 1,600, which is going to be a massive 102,400. Then when I divide that, I get x squared equals 256. So I have to square root that. So after all that, I'm back down to 16 millimeters. That's how big that is. Okay, so your assignment is not that. It is the 11.5 worksheet. So get that done and then check in with me and make sure that you understand what you're doing.